Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Sniffles Bells the Cat, released in 1941. It's the 315th in the series and it's directed by Chuck Jones. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Mouse Chronicles Blu-ray or DVD set. Blu-ray is preferred, you get better picture quality that way, but I'll have a link below to that set. It is under copyright, you will not find this on YouTube unless Warner Brothers themselves choose to upload it. And honestly, after seeing this short, you'll be saying, yeah, put the more popular, funnier stuff out there. But this short definitely has some merits and I will go through them. But in case you haven't seen this one, Sniffles and his friends, they're being chased by a cat and they're trying to figure out a solution to their problem where the cat is so silent that they don't know whenever he's coming. Sniffles suggests a bell, and so Sniffles' friends proceed to make Sniffles bell the cat. And we just get the rest of the short of Sniffles trying to put a bell around this cat's neck. Now, in terms of trivia, the whole idea here actually comes from an Aesop fable called Belling the Cat. And the whole story is similar to what goes on here. A group of mice, they decide they're going to attach a bell around the cat's neck in order to warn them if the cat is actually approaching. And if this idea still sounds familiar to you, later on Bob McKimson would do a Sylvester and Hippity Hopper short called Bellhoppy, which does a very similar idea, though a lot more funnier. Although this one, again, has its merits and a lot of it has to do with the artistry of it. So this one is slow, it looks beautiful, whereas Bellhoppy, the animation, maybe not as sharp, but it's a lot funnier and more interesting to watch. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole Sniffles history, I've already done that on this channel. So if you want to know about Sniffles and where Chuck Jones was at this point in his career, I suggest you check out some of the other Sniffles videos. Now, in terms of vocal performances, so you've got Sniffles, still voiced by Margaret Hill-Tabol, and she also does the voice of one of the other mice. But the other two mice are actually voiced by Marjorie Tarleton, and she would actually end up doing the voice of Sniffles in future entries, where Jones changes the character from this cutesy sort of Disney-esque type character to an annoying blabbermouse that just won't shut up. Which is pretty much whenever they do revive the character for any future Looney Tunes projects, that's pretty much the direction that they end up going in. But what we're going to do is go through this short from start to finish, and I'm going to point out a few observations regarding Jones at this time, because 1941, Jones continues the transition from the Jones that's trying to ape the Disney style into the Chuck Jones we all know and love. And again, I'm not going to go too deep into Chuck's history at this time, but I just want to point out a few things as we go along. So we open up the short, and Jones right away has learned one of the best ways to start off a short is with a bit of action, and we can see here a bunch of mice and eventually Sniffles being chased by this cat. Now, there's something about the early Chuck Jones cats that I truly enjoy, before Jones would end up designing Claude later on and then end up drawing cats the way he would do in the late 40s and 50s and onwards. But there's something about this cat, and this cat design will end up being reused in Toy Trouble, another Sniffles short that I need to cover on this channel. But one of the themes you're going to hear throughout this short is Three Blind Mice. You hear it all throughout. But Carl Starling, who does the music here, does a lot of musical puns. He uses the cue, "You're a lucky guy," all throughout. And that's played at the very beginning. It's played when Sniffles is sitting on the cat's nose. So any part where Carl Starling wanted to play a little bit of a joke, you know, you're a lucky guy, and he's in a very unlucky position. But one thing to know about the direction of this one are some of the angles and layouts that Chuck Jones uses, such as the angle of all the mice escaping into the mouse hole and the cat ends up just missing out and getting him as the door gets closed. Jones would definitely have more snappier timing later on, but one thing he does do here that he would end up doing in future shorts is the aftermath. So when the character gets all banged up, you just see the aftermath in a held drawing. While yes, the drawings would be funnier in later entries and so on, but this is roughly where Jones would start that sort of thing. So the cat gets up and ends up walking away while muttering something that we don't hear. I am curious, was anything recorded for that, or was it just a sound that was supposed to be in there and it was missed out? I don't know. That's information that's lost to time. So we see the mice sitting down discussing that, yep, the cat is getting harder to look out for because naturally the cat is very silent, and Sniffles ends up suggesting the bell idea.
Sure walks off. He certainly does. Gosh, if he only made some kind kind of noise. If he only had some kind of whistle or bell or something on him. A bell?
The friends get all excited at the idea, and in another bit of an interesting layout, we see Sniffles. He's, I guess, muttering to himself about the idea, whether it's good or not, and the three other mice converge together to agree that, yep, it actually is a good idea, but we got to get Sniffles to do it because he's the one that suggested it. Now, admittedly, favorite part of this short is the one shot of those two mice holding the bell, just the smug looks that they have about them. There's just something about that drawing that makes me chuckle. Plus, we've also got the third mouse opening the door, suggesting to Sniffles that, okay, we like your idea, go and do it. And Sniffles says,
no. You suggested it.
and Sniffles stubbornly refuses, but we all know in the next shot he's going to be pushed out to do it anyway. So we're already nearly 3 minutes into it. Now granted, this is a blue ribbon print. If the original titles were there, it would actually be even longer than that. So it takes quite a while for this whole premise to start, and Jones would end up doing things to pick up the pace anyway, especially once he teams up with Muck Maltese. But even some entries before that with Ted Pierce, he would do the same. In fact, Jones around this time knew how to pick the pace up in certain ways. Just look at Elmer's Pet Rabbit, for example. That one definitely is timed way better than this one. It's not perfect, but it definitely is. So we know that Chuck Jones is capable of it, but for whatever reason, he goes back to his older ways for this short. So Sniffles is convinced once again to get the bell onto the cat, and Sniffles actually ends up agreeing. But this part never really made too much sense to me. So this part I thought could have been a little bit better directed, because you got Sniffles, he's looking all woozy, he ends up collapsing, and we see the clock actually going forward in time. So he's clearly collapsed.
Simple. That's what it is. Anybody could do it. Sure.
But then in the next shot, we just see Sniffles play acting what he's going to actually say to the cat. It feels like there was something missing there, but it was cut out, because the transition there was kind of weird. But in any case, we see that Sniffles is practicing what he's going to say to the cat, looks over, and the cat is right there. Now, did I say that this cat just has that charming design? I love this early Chuck Jones cat. In fact, if anyone from Warner Brothers Merchandising listening, that is something I'd like to buy, some sort of plush of this designed cat. But here's another thing that Jones would end up picking up on and would do all throughout his career, having one character with a held pose while the other character would be fully animated.
There's absolutely money-back guarantee if you're not perfectly satisfied.
And usually be in a situation like this where someone's listening on, maybe in anger, or maybe in a pose like this. But either way, Jones would learn when it's best to animate and when it's best to not animate. But after a long while, Sniffles then realizes the cat is right there, but he just goes in a loop and ends up back on the cat's nose anyway. Not particularly haha funny, but I guess some people might find that sort of thing cute. And one other thing I'm going to point out about this cat, a lot of shorts around this time, you would see the duotone coloring. So Chuck Jones's shorts always had that more lavish quality around this time, and part of that is all that extra care with the duotone painting, such as what we see on the cat. And another thing that Jones would end up doing a lot, and you can see this sort of thing especially in Wile E. Coyote shorts, the whole trope of not realizing that, yep, I'm actually in trouble until they feel what they're not supposed to feel. So, of course, with the coyote, he'd be up in the air, maybe walking along, then realizing, oh, wait, there's no ground, and he would end up falling down. In this case, you have Sniffles is on the nose, feels up the cat's whisker, and I like the added touch in the music there. We hear the violin play as he's doing so. And then he realizes, oh, wait, I'm actually sitting on the cat. This is actually a bad thing. And the chase is on, which doesn't last too long because the cat's looking around and realizes that Sniffles is in one of the 3 cups. Now I wonder who drew the cat here because it's clearly a different artist, but this scene Not particularly haha funny, but it's an interesting little exploration of some character acting. We got this smug cat knowing that, yep, I know where the mouse is. He's in one of these cups and I'm going to get to him. So we see a scene. Again, Jones would do this a lot more faster pace later on, but he moves one cup out of the way. He then sees in the second cup the Sniffles not there, even though he actually is. But in another interesting layout choice, we see the third cup. He looks through the cup handle and sees the second cup has actually gone away. How the cup got down without breaking, we'll never know. But the cat notices, and again, we've got some nice layouts, including the bottom-up shot of the cat approaching, looking all vicious and not happy that he couldn't find the mouse earlier in the cup. And the chase is on again, and we see that the cat is now belled. And once again, we get a nice held pose with just minimal animation, again, animating only when necessary, which is of the cat now looked all banged up and he's just playing with that bell. Why doesn't he just take it off? Well, I don't know. And we end up on a really cute note where Sniffles acts all brave now while crossing his fingers behind him, and we end right there. So yeah, look, again, I can't find myself being too harsh on this one because, let's face it, if we're going to compare it to later Chuck Jones shorts, this one will pale in comparison, but there is a lot to like, and it's interesting seeing this sort of stuff as someone interested in filmmakers' journeys about how they started certain tropes that they would end up doing throughout their career. And this one has a few of them. Yes, he will do some of this stuff better in the future, but it's still interesting to see the start of it. Look, this one, entertainment-wise, I'd say 5 out of 10, right? And a lot of that's just to do with the artistry, and that's pretty much it. But honestly, I still feel like 5 out of 10 is a bit too harsh, so I don't know, maybe 6 out of 10. We'll just go with that. It's fine for what it is. But that will do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.
Shucks, it was easy. I just walked right up to him and said, "Look here, Mr. Cat, you put this old bell